What's up, everybody? Carlton Flowers here with the Go Political Podcast. Sorry you missed me yesterday. Yesterday got away from me really quick, and so I'm back on track trying to keep up with these daily podcasts. And today's topic is a serious one. We need to talk about the false information that is pushed in front of people's faces every day. It's these memes that are designed to trigger people, to get people in their emotions, and they're all politically motivated. So there's one particular meme that is centered on this whole Charlie Kirk catastrophe that happened that I'm going to show this to you and talk about how dangerous this is to keep this stuff out there, to keep pushing this kind of information, because it just causes the divide to get deeper. And this one, it did trigger me. It got under my skin. So let me pull up the meme here. Okay, that's the wrong one. We're going to talk about that one on the next video. Here it is right here. So I'm just going to read this and then we're going to talk about it. So in this meme, what the leftist was trying to do was to make a point by supposedly embarrassing Representative Nancy Mace and present her as a hypocrite. Okay, with this before and after, the first comment that they have copied from her X account, it says time to bring back the death penalty. And that was after, the shooting happened. And then the next one changes the tone where she's talking about praying about evil and losing a person like Tyler Robinson, or talking about a lost individual like Tyler Robinson, praying for him to find Jesus. So here's why this meme is so bad. It starts out saying, before learning the shooter was a cisgender far-right white man. Oh, man. Okay, so of course that is just chock full of lies that has been debunked. And then it says, after learning the shooter was a cisgender far-right white man. So this whole thing is based on a lie. Now, this wasn't even the best one. There was another meme that was posted by someone who was connected to my family who has complete Trump derangement syndrome, and she has made it her focus in life to rage about Donald Trump every day, posting memes one after another. And so I constantly intervene and try to get her to think critically and to at least, vet these memes, look up some information, dig to find out if what they're even putting up on their little meme picture, if it's based in truth, because 10 times out of 10, they're not. But people take them for just for face value. They accept what is being presented. Why? It's because they get you in your emotions. And when you get into your emotions, it's your caveman brain that takes over, the limbic system. And while you are in an emotional state, you don't have the ability to think logically, to use reason. You can't do that. And that's why these memes propagate like they do. So people get riled up, they get upset, and then they start sharing away. And then more and more people get upset by it, and it just grows. So when this popped up, this was the second one that I had responded to. The first one was a lot worse than this because it went through all the details of what they were claiming, that he was white, cisgender, radical, far right-wing, conservative, blah, blah, blah. And so here's the point. So without vetting this, there was no way that they would be able to realize that all of this was debunked. Now, did he come from a right-wing family? Yes, he did. His parents were MAGA parents. And so then they automatically assume that he has to have the same political viewpoints as the parents. And there's no guarantee. How many people do you know that have the opposite political beliefs of their parents? Now, think back during the election season. Do you remember the movement that was going on where people in the younger generations were disavowing their parents for supporting Donald Trump? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? They would publicly disavow and disown their parents for supporting Donald Trump for all the obvious reasons that, the left pushes out there because, of course, he's racist, misogynist, an oligarch, fascist. They love that one. He's Hitler, blah, blah, blah. They put all these scary, hurtful, shameful names on Donald Trump to scare you up, which is ridiculous. All of those things is that they're comparing to, it's like hyperbole, okay? We're taking it to the extreme. Of course, Donald Trump hasn't done anything similar to those that they are comparing him to, but they want to take it to the extreme and get you upset. And that's the strategy of the Democratic Party that has gone so far left, and they have gone downhill so far with their approval rating, even within the Democratic Party supporters, that this is like the last straw. They're fighting and they are reaching for anything that they can use to regain power. But back to the topic at hand here. So here we had all of these statements that were made. And while this was being posted and people were getting upset, there was already information out on the internet from reliable news sources that were saying the exact opposite. So let's just jump over here. This is just one example article, and this is on WIO News, okay? And it is asking the question, what is Antifa? And did it inspire Tyler Robinson to do what he did? You scroll through this, and all of what they're reporting is fact, and it's already been reported by multiple news outlets. So they're talking about, yeah, he was born of these MAGA supporting parents, but after he went to college, he was radicalized by the left. And that happens a lot. People get to college. My two youngest, I've got one that's still in college, and they're bombarded with Antifa mentality, okay? And I constantly have to help to debunk a lot of the brainwashing that they're trying to force into the heads of my kids. And fortunately, they're smart enough to really dig in and do their research and find out that most of it is just what it is, political propaganda. But we scroll through this and we find supporting evidence like the bullet casings. The inscriptions that were on the bullet casings are very clear. One casing said, "Hey, fascist, catch." What right-wing Republican MAGA supporter would say this? That's a line that's used by the radical leftists. And this goes on, mentioning all of the things that were found on the gun casings. But they ignore this. They ignore it. Now, getting back to the cisgender, I hate that word. That's a new word that the radical leftists have invented because we can't just say heterosexual. Now we have to name people who are heterosexual a cisgender. And if you don't use their word, where you're a bigot, you're hateful, you're a sexist, they slap all these titles on you to denigrate you if you don't go along with their nomenclature. But anyway, all of the evidence is discussed in this article and many, many others. And we're not talking just right-wing news sources. All of the media is starting to report this information as fact. So while they're standing behind this whole argument that he was cisgender or heterosexual and not trans, they were correct. He is not trans. But guess what? His roommate is trans. And there is factual information now supporting what we know, that this roommate was his lover. Okay, now they might come back and say, well, we can't believe any of that, or who's to say, but now we know that this information is coming from the roommate himself. Now, what else are you going to believe? What can we do about memes like this out there that are pushing this false information, where they're saying that it's just the news media that's trying to smear and trying to change up what really happened? And then we come out and find out that the individual that was the roommate is basically saying the same thing. Yes, this was my romantic interest. They were a couple, whatever you want to call it. Now, there's no harm and no fault in being transgender. That's not what people are upset about here. There's no fault in being LGBTQ, no fault at all. But where the fault lies is that they seem to think that the whole point is to smear the LGBTQ community and the trans community, and that's not it. The point is that you're lying by saying that he was cisgender and has nothing to do with the trans community when he does. And so they're doing these things. They lie so they can discredit all of the news sources. So I got into this big argument where someone was telling me, oh, you're dead wrong. All that's false information. You can't prove it. If you research, you're going to find out that he was cisgender and a right-wing radical conservative. So I started posting articles showing the evidence, one after another. Oh, well, you're still wrong. You're just believing all of this stuff. It's all lies. So I said, well, how about you share your references and post articles that prove to the contrary? And of course, he couldn't come up with anything. This person that I was arguing with on this thread couldn't come up with a single article that refutes everything that we see that shows that this meme is based in a complete lie. But this meme is still being pushed out there. Now, what is the reason why they came up with this? What's behind it? Well, it's simple. It's because those who are on the left, the radical left, they don't want someone who did something this horrible to be associated with their team. It looks bad. For example, the person that ended the life of the Ukrainian woman on the train. It turns out he's black. Now, that's not something that I wanted to hear. Do I want to read in the news that a black man has done such an insidious thing to a white person? No. That doesn't shine a positive light on the black community. But there's no way that we could have come out and said, oh, well, it's all lies. He's really European. Well, no, you can't lie about that because obviously looking at the man, he's black. It doesn't take much research to prove that. But it's still not something that you want to see. It's like, oh, boy, here we go. Yet another news story that lends to the people who are bigots, that don't like black people, that want to put us all in one category. This just fuels their fire. You don't want to see that. Well, that's what's going on here. So the people on the left don't want this news to come out that tells us that, yes, he was LGBTQ, and yes, he was involved with a gentleman that was transitioning from male to female. Okay, because then that says, all right, this guy had a motive. He was radicalized while in college. Charlie Kirk did make several statements that have been twisted out of context, which makes it look like he hates people that are LGBTQ or trans. And so this person probably was very upset knowing that he's dating someone who is trans, and that would give him reason to want to lash out and do harm to Charlie Kirk. So the people on the left, well, that doesn't help the I want to say reputation, but it really bears no impact on the reputation of those who don't do these things. It's just too bad that, yeah, this guy was LGBTQ and associated with the trans community. But why can't you just say that? Okay, this guy was radicalized, he was bad. Well, no. They want to make up stories and then associate this very nefarious individual who did this horrible thing. Well, let's associate him with the political party that we hate. We hate conservatives. We hate the far right. So let's just make up a story and claim that the shooter was far right. And it doesn't make any sense at all. Why would this individual end the life of Charlie Kirk if he was a far right-wing MAGA supporter? Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't make a lick of sense. If he was a far right-wing person, and even radical right-wing, why would he end the life of a person that could be said to be partly responsible for the success of Donald Trump during the election? It doesn't make sense, but you can't even pound that common sense into the heads of these people that are pushing out these memes. And this is bad. So while we have this out here, there's a lot of other memes that are going on that have been perpetuated since the election, which I think are responsible for this cover up. Now, for those of you who have forgotten, let me remind you of what some of those memes were. Well, we had one that said 8647, and you know what that means. We also had this meme that was pushed out there on the daily where it said, why don't we just tell someone to take one for the team and get the job done? You know what that means. And then they were saying, can't somebody just get it over with and get it done? And what they were referring to was ending the life of Donald Trump before he could become the president. So they were basically advocating for ending his life. They think that he is Adolf Hitler. And of course, if you ended the life of Adolf Hitler, that would be a good thing and saving the lives of millions of people. So they think that they were justified in doing that. But they're wrong about their assessment. So looking back, knowing that none of the ridiculous predictions and the conspiracies that they were pushing where they were saying he'll be a dictator on day one, black and brown people will be rounded up and put into concentration camps, and on and on and on. None of that came to pass, right? So that kind of leaves them looking pretty radical. It leaves them looking responsible for the person who ended the life of Charlie Kirk, because you fueled the fire. You riled him up. You got him in his emotions because every day you constantly said that someone should take one for the team and get the job done. Now, all the people pushing that out, they didn't have the guts and the courage to go and do it themselves. So they figured, well, let's get somebody else riled up to go out there and do something this awful. And then it happens. Now, it wasn't President Trump. It was Charlie Kirk. But now that that has happened, do you think they're going to go back and remember all of the posts that they put out there encouraging people to commit a heinous act? No, they're not. They're not going to touch it. So to cover that up, they got to put out memes like this, flat out lies, so they can claim that this person had nothing to do with their radical party, with their social community. And that's got to stop. It's got to stop. You know, we're coming to a time where we're probably going to have legislation passed where this stuff is going to get people thrown in jail. Because when you do this, you're pushing people who are on the fringe that are capable of committing the heinous act. You're pushing them to act out on impulse. That's what you're doing. Remember back during COVID in 2021, 2022, when you could not post on Facebook anything about not wanting to accept the vaccination about COVID, not wanting to post, or whenever you would post something that showed evidence that the vaccine wasn't 100% safe, do you remember how quickly your posts would be taken down from Facebook? Now, of course, we've got the No Kings protest and people saying Donald Trump is being a dictator. But back then, no one said a word when we were all actively being censored, not allowed to post anything against the administration that was in control. But now today, right now, we're free to do this. We're free to push this information out there, outright lies. It's not even up for debate. These are just lies. We're allowed to do that, but then you're protesting that Donald Trump is a king. Make sense out of that for me. I don't understand it. I don't. So I'm going to start covering each one of these ridiculous memes as I find them. The next one that I'm going to do, oh, it's just so bad. And I had to kind of lay into a friend of mine that had posted this next particular one that's going to come up. It's been debunked for several weeks. And then this meme pops back up and they connect it to Charlie Kirk. They're double dipping. They're going back, grabbing an old meme and using that as fuel for the fire so they can still come out and come up against those that are supporting Charlie Kirk. So I would like to know what your reaction to this is. And let me ask you this question. Do you think posts like this should be censored? Should a person be held responsible and punished for putting out false information like this that could push someone to committing a heinous act? Let me know in the comments. Do you think that it is fair that we were being censored back in 2021, 2022, but we're allowing all of this garbage to be smeared all over social media, particularly on Facebook? Let me know an answer to that question. And what do you think should be done? Is it time that we crack down on false information posted on these memes that have no fact checking, no policing whatsoever? Do you think that it is time for us to do something about this? I'd sure like to know. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tick the notification bell. Let's start to talk about this. And stay tuned. I'm going to have another one for you. I'll be right back at it tomorrow. That's all I got for this one. This is Carlton, and I'm out.